INFJs often go through life feeling different from the people around them. They sense emotions deeply, think far ahead, and carry strong values that guide the way they make decisions. Because of their instinct to reflect and their desire to understand everything around them, they learn certain lessons slowly. These lessons do not come from books or simple advice. They come from years of experience, disappointment, growth, and emotional reality. Many INFJs only understand the full meaning of these lessons later in life, often after they have spent too much time helping the wrong people, chasing the wrong goals, or ignoring their own needs. INFJs are thoughtful and careful, but they often put others first. They want to create harmony, avoid conflict, and make sure the people they care about are doing well. This makes them excellent listeners and loyal companions, but it also leads them to follow patterns that do not support their own well-being. They may stay in situations longer than they should, give more than they receive, or carry the emotional weight for others. Because of this, many of their most important lessons come from learning what happens when they reach their limits. Life eventually teaches INFJs that not everyone can be saved, not every goal can be perfect, and not every connection is meant to last. They realize that they cannot continue pouring energy into everyone else without paying a heavy price. They understand that their needs matter just as much as anyone else's. They discover that resisting change only causes more pain. And they learn that being true to themselves is far more important than earning approval from others. These lessons do not come early. They come through years of trying, failing, giving, trusting, and adapting. But once learned, these lessons shape the INFJ into someone stronger, calmer, and far better prepared for the next part of their life. This video explores the major life lessons INFJs tend to learn too late, the ones that finally help them understand who they are and how to protect their emotional world. Lesson number 1. You can't save everyone. One of the earliest instincts of the INFJ is to help others. They see people's pain quickly and deeply, even when the person tries to hide it. They notice emotional signals, changes in behavior, and unspoken worries. Because of this, INFJs feel responsible for supporting others, guiding them, or even fixing their problems. They hope that if they give enough love, patience, or understanding, the other person will heal or change. This desire to help comes from a good place, but it leads to one of the hardest lessons INFJs learn. They cannot save everyone. INFJs often learn this lesson only after years of giving more than their energy can handle. They put themselves in situations where they become the emotional caretaker. They pick up the broken pieces, listen for hours, or act as the only stable part of someone's life. At first, it feels meaningful. It feels like their purpose. But eventually, the INFJ realizes that they are carrying someone else's responsibility. They begin to see that the other person is not trying to grow or change. They may even take advantage of the INFJ's kindness. This realization can be painful. INFJs do not want to walk away from someone who is hurting. They do not want to admit that their effort is not enough. They believe that if they just try harder or care more, everything will work out. But over time, they see that not every person wants help, and not every person is ready to change. Some people only want comfort, not responsibility. Some want attention, not growth. And some simply do not value the support the INFJ gives. INFJs often push themselves beyond their limits, ignoring their own needs in the process. They stay up late offering emotional support, cancel their own plans to help someone else, or take on problems that were never theirs. Eventually, this leads to exhaustion, resentment, or emotional burnout. The INFJ learns that they cannot be the hero in every situation, no matter how strong their desire is. This lesson also teaches INFJs that people must save themselves. Personal growth cannot be forced. Healing cannot be delivered by another person. Change must come from inside. When INFJs realize this, they become wiser. They start choosing where to put their energy. They learn to help without sacrificing themselves. They understand that supporting someone is different from carrying them. Many INFJs learn this lesson later in life because they spend their early years trying to be the emotional anchor for others. But once they learn it, they become more balanced. They focus on people who genuinely appreciate their support. They step back from situations that drain them. They give help where it leads to real progress, not endless cycles. Accepting that they cannot save everyone frees the INFJ to save themselves first. And that shift changes everything. Lesson number 2. Perfectionism and idealism can be a trap. INFJs naturally imagine how things could be. They see ideal versions of relationships, careers, goals, and futures. This vision pushes them to work hard, stay loyal, and give their best. But at the same time, this perfect image becomes a heavy weight. They chase ideal outcomes that may not be possible, and they hold themselves to standards no one can reach. Over time, INFJs learn that perfectionism is not a strength. It is a trap that steals time, energy, and emotional peace. At a young age, INFJs often believe that achieving perfect results will prevent problems. They think that if they act perfectly, no one will be disappointed. If they make perfect decisions, nothing will go wrong. If they show perfect behavior, everyone will accept them. But life teaches them slowly, and sometimes painfully, that perfection is an illusion. People will still misunderstand them. Plans will still fall apart. Mistakes will still happen. And relationships will still change. This lesson takes a long time to learn because INFJs are idealistic by nature. They expect honesty, depth, respect, and fairness. They imagine the best in people and situations. When reality does not match their vision, they blame themselves. They think they failed, rather than accepting that some things are simply out of their control. This creates self-pressure that grows quietly over the years. Perfectionism also stops INFJs from taking risks. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect conditions, or the perfect plan. They hold back from trying new things because they fear making mistakes. They hesitate to express their feelings because they fear saying the wrong thing. This prevents them from moving forward in relationships, careers, or personal growth. Only later in life do they realize how much time they lost trying to do everything perfectly. Another part of this lesson is understanding that idealism can blind them. INFJs often see potential instead of reality. They stay in relationships because they believe the person can become better. They stay in jobs because they imagine how meaningful the work could be someday. They ignore red flags because they focus on the ideal version of the situation. By the time they recognize the truth, they may have stayed far too long. Eventually, INFJs learn that life is about progress, not perfection. They learn that imperfect actions still move them forward. They discover that real people are flawed, and real situations are messy. This realization brings freedom. It allows them to relax, breathe, and live without the constant pressure to be flawless. It opens them up to new experiences and relationships that are real, not idealized. The lesson comes late, but once learned, it becomes a powerful turning point. The INFJ begins to choose growth over perfection, reality over fantasy, and self-acceptance over self-criticism. They become far more at peace with themselves and their path. Lesson number 3. Your own needs matter too. INFJs often grow up believing that taking care of others is more important than taking care of themselves. They put their energy into being supportive, understanding, and patient. They comfort people, listen for hours, and try to keep peace in every situation. This makes them dependable, but it also leads to a painful realization later in life. Their own needs have been ignored for far too long. INFJs usually do not ask for much. They do not demand attention or push their emotions onto others. They hide their struggles, so they do not burden anyone. They try to stay strong, even when they feel overwhelmed. Over time, this creates a silent pattern of self-neglect. They focus so much on helping others that they forget to check in with themselves. Their energy gets drained, their emotions build up, and their health suffers. The INFJ learns this lesson late because people often praise them for being selfless. They are told they are kind, strong, or dependable. These compliments feel good at first, but they also encourage the INFJ to keep giving even when they are exhausted. Eventually, they reach a breaking point. They realize they cannot continue living with empty energy and unspoken needs. This lesson also appears when the INFJ notices that many people take without giving back. They find themselves surrounded by individuals who rely on their kindness but never return the same level of care. The INFJ begins to understand that their needs are not being met because they never gave themselves permission to express them. They thought being strong meant staying quiet, but life teaches them that true strength includes recognizing their own limits. With time, INFJs learn to set aside space for themselves. They start saying no to situations that drain them. They begin choosing relationships where their needs are respected. They understand that their well-being matters just as much as anyone else's. This shift does not make them less caring. It makes their care more balanced and healthy. By the time INFJs fully learn this lesson, they become more confident, grounded, and emotionally stable. They realize that caring for others is meaningful, but caring for themselves is essential. They finally understand that they deserve the same patience, respect, and compassion they always give to others. Lesson number 4. Change is inevitable. Resisting it hurts. INFJs often imagine how life should unfold. They create mental pictures of ideal relationships, stable routines, and meaningful goals. Because of this inner vision, they try to hold on tightly to what feels familiar or safe. They resist change because they fear losing something important or disrupting the balance they worked hard to create. However, life eventually shows them a difficult truth. Change will happen whether they are ready or not, and resisting it only causes more pain. This lesson appears in many areas. INFJs may stay in relationships long after they have stopped growing. They may stay in jobs that no longer match their values. They may hold on to memories or dreams that no longer fit who they are becoming. Their desire for stability makes them cling to what they know, even when it prevents them from moving forward. INFJs learn this lesson late because change feels personal to them. They attach deep meaning to people, place, and experiences. Letting go can feel like losing a part of themselves. They blame themselves when things shift, believing they could have done something differently. They try to control situations to prevent uncomfortable outcomes. But eventually, life shows them that not all change is within their control. People grow apart, opportunities fade, and paths evolve. When an INFJ finally accepts change, they feel relief. They discover that change can open new doors, bring healthier relationships, and reveal parts of life they never expected. They learn that letting go does not mean failure. It means trusting the process and allowing life to unfold naturally. Once INFJs learn this lesson, they become more adaptable. They still feel deeply, but they stop fighting against what is inevitable. They learn to release what no longer belongs in their life and make room for new experiences that better match who they are. Accepting change becomes a sign of growth, not loss. Lesson number 5. Boundaries are not selfish. INFJs struggle with boundaries because they fear hurting people or appearing cold. They open their hearts easily, share their energy freely, and allow others to take space in their lives without asking for much in return. This makes them caring and attentive, but it also makes them vulnerable to being overwhelmed, drained, or taken advantage of. The lesson that boundaries are necessary, not selfish, is one they usually learn too late. In their early years, INFJs assume that saying yes is the kind thing to do. They agree to help, listen, assist, or support even when they feel tired. They think that being available makes them a good friend or partner. But over time, they realize that constantly saying yes leads to exhaustion. Their mental and emotional energy becomes stretched thin. They start feeling frustrated or resentful, but they blame themselves instead of recognizing the real issue. They never created limits. The turning point often comes when the INFJ finally burns out. They may reach a moment where they feel emotionally empty, unable to give anything more. They might experience friendships or relationships where the other person expects endless support but never gives anything back. These experiences teach the INFJ that boundaries protect their emotional health and prevent others from taking advantage of their kindness. Boundaries help INFJs create space for rest, reflection, and growth. They allow the INFJ to choose where to invest energy and who deserves it. They filter out people who only want to take. They reveal who respects the INFJ's time and who ignores it. When INFJs finally learn this lesson, they stop apologizing for protecting their peace. They become more confident in saying no. They begin choosing relationships that feel balanced and healthy. They understand that boundaries do not push people away. They keep the right people close and the wrong people at a distance. Lesson number 6, authenticity wins over approval. INFJs spend a large part of their early life trying to make others comfortable. They want to avoid conflict, maintain harmony, and make sure everyone feels supported. This often leads them to hide parts of themselves, soften their opinions, or act in ways that match what others expect. They adjust their tone, their reactions, and even their dreams to keep the peace. But eventually, life teaches them an important lesson. Approval from others is never worth losing their true self. INFJs learn this lesson late because they care deeply about the emotional atmosphere around them. They can sense tension easily, and they do everything they can to reduce it. They try to be polite, helpful, and agreeable, hoping that this will maintain strong relationships. But over time, this behavior becomes draining. They begin to feel invisible or misunderstood. They notice that people appreciate the version of them that is helpful, not the one that is real. The moment of clarity often comes when the INFJ realizes that approval is inconsistent. No matter how kind or thoughtful they are, someone will still disagree, judge, or misunderstand them. They cannot control how others see them. They can only control whether they remain true to their values. When they finally accept this, they understand that authenticity brings healthier, more genuine connections. Approval brings temporary peace, but authenticity brings long-lasting freedom. INFJs also learn that hiding their truth keeps them stuck. When they avoid speaking up, they limit their own growth. When they stay silent to avoid upsetting someone, they lose opportunities. When they pretend everything is fine, they block their own emotional needs. Authenticity becomes the path that allows them to express their ideas, dreams, and boundaries clearly. It helps them attract the right people and distance themselves from those who only like the filtered version of them. Once INFJs embrace authenticity, they become more confident. They stop forcing themselves to fit expectations. They express their thoughts more clearly. They share their true interests, values, and feelings. They let go of the pressure to please everyone. This shift changes the way they interact with the world. They no longer chase acceptance, they choose honesty instead. And in doing so, they form relationships that are real, respectful, and emotionally balanced. Approval fades. Authenticity lasts. This is a lesson the INFJ learns later in life, but once they accept it, it becomes one of the strongest parts of who they are. INFJs learn many lessons slowly because of their deep emotions, idealism, and desire to protect others. These lessons often come from difficult moments, long struggles, or years of giving too much. But once they learn them, these lessons shape the INFJ into a wiser, stronger, and more grounded version of themselves. They learn that they cannot save everyone, no matter how much they care. They discover that perfectionism and idealistic expectations only exhaust them. They find out that ignoring their own needs leads to burnout and disappointment. They realize that resisting change only creates more pain. They understand that boundaries are necessary to protect their emotional health. And finally, they learn that their true self matters more than winning approval from the people around them. These lessons may come late, but they guide the INFJ toward a healthier and more balanced life. They teach the INFJ to value their energy, protect their peace, and build relationships that honor who they truly are. With time, the INFJ grows into someone who understands their worth and no longer sacrifices themselves for people who do not appreciate them. These lessons help the INFJ move forward with clarity, confidence, and peace. They learn to live in a way that feels honest and strong, not pressured or controlled by the expectations of others.